Okay, we should be live. Welcome back to episode 2 of SimWorld. We have checked in a little bit early. People in the comment section, definitely let us know if the audio sounds crisp, if it sounds good. I do have a special guest today co-hosting with me in SimWorld. That is Sam from Bayside Golf. So welcome, Sam.
Thanks, mate. I don't think mine's actually showing on here.
So hopefully, I'm pretty sure we're live. Mike has checked in.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I think, unfortunately, YouTube wants to show me a few ads. There we go.
Okay,
We're
yeah,
good. Okay,
classic. Thank,
we're
yep,
running. Thanks, Joe.
nice. So we've got a lot of topics to get through today. We have come on a little bit early, so we'll let people get signed in. We'll let people log onto the stream, but we have a lot of stuff to get through today. Big talking points about today's episode: Square Golf launch monitor. There is an announcement that we're going to make live, on this video. We've got Garmin Approach R50. So I've had that now for a week, so I'm going to give my thoughts. We have a Pro T VX. I want to talk about the Pro T and I want to talk about the shot delay that I've been having. And I have spoken to Pro T. I've got an answer why that's happening. So I'm going to feed that back through to you guys. And then finally, the massive announcement from Foresight, the GC3S. I want to get everyone's thoughts on that, and I'll get yours as well, Sam, because that kind of came out of nowhere, and it's super exciting because it's a new Foresight unit. But have they missed the mark for a lot of home users? We'll talk about that later in this episode. Okay, Holtzy's checked in. So Holtzy's the one I've been talking to him a fair bit about. He bought the Pro T. I've been talking to him about the club data because he's been having issues with angle of attack and other things that I haven't been seeing. So it's really interesting. That being said, he has about 180 miles an hour plus ball speed. His swing speed's off the charts. So potentially that's something to do with it. But there seems like there's a few people checking in now, which is cool. And we'll kick off all the topics in 5 minutes. Yeah, that's the case. It's amazing, this channel, the reach it has, and there's people checking in from all over the world, which is fantastic. I love seeing that. I'm going to try and schedule these. It's probably not going to be at the same time each week, and the reason for that is I do want to give like UK viewers, an actual live that they can come and join in. So the timing of this kind of works out good because in Australia, in Adelaide right now, it's 4 minutes to 11 in the morning on Sunday. So in the US, it's around the Arvo time. So I think on the West Coast, I think it's around 5 o'clock. I'd have to check, but it works out to be the afternoon for America. In the UK at the moment, it's midnight. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of people checking in. And there you go. I'm going to absolutely butcher. Is it Torstein? Have I said that correct? Thank you for the support, a channel member. It's amazing to see you checking in at that time. And yeah, like I said, we will try and schedule these for different timings. Yeah, Spike says high swing speed will not be a concern for me. Yeah, same. I try so hard, and Sam as well. Like we try to get that speed, but I mean, some people can do it, and other people just can't. I guess some people can run really quick and throw a ball far, and others just have to work at it.
I think speed is the last thing my game needs because I don't want to hit it further out of bounds.
Yeah, that's the thing. Just for the people online now, just checked in. How does Sam's audio and video sound? Is it all good? Please let us know. And
Yeah,
Holtzy's,
my live stream is obviously a bit delayed that I'm looking at, but obviously that's expected. So hopefully it's coming through okay.
yeah.
All good.
Holtzy says, still love the Pro T. Replay video is so good. I agree. The replay video is incredible. Okay, cool. So Mike said the video is fine. Voice is a little muffled, but that's not bad. Okay, fantastic. That's really good because logistically trying to set this up, I'm in Adelaide, which is South Australia, and Sam's in Brisbane, which is the East Coast. So we're in how long's the flight? About 3 hours, 3.5 hours?
2.5.
Yeah, so it's a 2.5 hour flight, but it seems to be working, which is fantastic. Yeah, so Event Productions, it looks like they gave the BLP a run at the subscription model first. Yeah, so that's what it kind of seems. I mean, we'll get into it all later in the video, but to me, it kind of seems like the GC3S, I've got to get the name right, is essentially a BLP worldwide. But there's also a few other things that you get with that, like the integration with all the Bushnell laser rangefinders and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'll get Sam will elaborate on all this stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. All right. It looks like we got a few people. I think we've got 32 people at the moment checked in. So yeah, let's start off, I guess, with a lot of people have checked in for the Square News. I might wait for the Square News only because I think if we give people a chance to actually get on, we'll probably do the Square News somewhere in the middle, just so then people have a chance to actually log on and get sorted. If we say it too early, people will miss it. First off, I guess first topic of the night. Let's kick off with the Foresight, Sam. Let's talk Foresight.
So we, I guess, knew something was coming from Foresight, and I think, you know, as a brand, they are the gold standard for indoor golf. Like, I don't think anyone can really disagree with that, or anyone that really knows their stuff. If we look at what TrackMan are doing, they're obviously now using photometric with their IO overhead. I think that speaks volumes, really. You know, if we look at the technology we're using indoors, you know, TrackMan 4 using Doppler radar, which was always considered their gold standard, for them to now move to photometric, I think we can all agree that that is what we should be using indoors. With the GC3, it's a difficult one for Foresight because they have this brand as a gold standard, and therefore the price point should reflect that. And I totally agree. I don't actually think their products are overpriced. I think if you go a bit deeper into how they manufacture and how they even assemble their products, there's a lot that goes into it. And even if you just hold the GC3 is obviously with you at the moment, but if you pick that up and hold it and sort of look at it and in detail and compare that to something else on the market that's half the price, there is a massive difference. The build quality is just way above anything else. Even the weight of it, like things like that, you can tell it's a quality product. And of course, you've got the data that we know is just it's the gold standard. So software wise, you know, they're a great software provider in terms of game improvement. That's really, I think, where they're above all the others, which they're trying to add as well. But I think they kind of tick all the boxes around if you are very serious about golf and you're more serious about improving and knowing that you're never going to dispute your numbers, then Foresight is obviously where you want to go. Now, with the new model, what they can't do is just create something that is going to be cheaper than everyone else on the market, because that's just not what they do. So it's a bit of a tricky one for Foresight, because if they go and release something that's amazingly cheap, it actually devalues their ethos and who they are as a company. So I'd never expected them to release something where we go, oh my god, the pricing is insane and it's better than everyone else. That's not going to happen, and it shouldn't. The subscription model is quite basic. I think it's pretty obvious what they're trying to do here. It's, if you don't want the upfront cost, you can go down a subscription path. It's quite simple. And I think people go, well, why would I do this when I can do that? And I think, you know, everyone has different opinions, but really I think the main thing to take away is people have different budgets, and people prefer, some people are absolutely adamant they will not pay a yearly cost, and they're prepared to use terrible software if it means they don't pay a yearly cost. It's just, a lot of people actually have that opinion of, I don't want to pay on a yearly basis additional money, basically. So for people that want to pay once, cry once, which is the term everybody uses, I get it. The GC3, buy one, done. And let's face it, the accuracy's there. So, you know, the game of golf isn't changing. So in 10 years' time, you're still going to be hitting the same ball with the same club, essentially. So, you know, you've got that longevity with the product. Now, obviously, with the subscription model, some people might say, well, I may as well do that, because even over the long term, it's not costing me more to have that subscription. Depends how long that takes. I've seen some comments where people say it will take you 8 years to pay it. off if you bought the GC3. The
Yeah, I've seen
subscription
that
model
as
would
well.
take 8
Yeah.
years, right? So kind of from that perspective, I think that's it, right? It just depends on what you prefer. And obviously just look at both options. It's pretty clear on what you need for both of them to work. And then I think another thing to consider is the resale situation you may be in. So if something else comes along in 2 years, you know, that subscription model will have to be passed on to whoever buys it from you.
Yeah.
If you struggle to sell that to make the right amount of money back, is that risky? Whereas a GC3 might have great resale value because people know they can buy it and not be locked in. So that's something
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
consider as well that I think a lot of people overlook. So that's pretty much my summary of it. I think if there's any other questions people have on that, far away, but I think it's yeah, main thing there is just appealing to a broader market in terms of their entry level budget and whether they want a subscription.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've said for years, I mean, I know what we want as users. We want essentially a GC2 uh, updated. So instead of the flash, just have IR. Even if they just did the GC3, took the screen off it, stripped it back, did offboard processing, made it cheaper, I think that would be a massive win for this sim community. That would be huge. Essentially an iMini Lite.
It would be, but at the same time, you have to consider their other products, right? So,
Yeah,
if,
yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
example, they let you have all of those data points that you get with the
Mm.
GT3, but for half the, it's got to be half the price if you really want it to compete with something like an iMini Lite. So
The
six
iMini Lite
thousand
is,
Aussie,
we've
let's
said
say,
this.
for
Yeah,
example, right? So, if they do that and they create this thing that has to be powered, it doesn't have a battery, it doesn't have a screen, it has offboard processing, great, but at the same time it's a big, you know, almost insult to their other products, right? So if you bought a quad for
mm,
$40,000 or even a GC3 for 16, a fully unlocked
yeah,
one with all the software, you're going to be a bit annoyed that someone can essentially get the same results for 6K. So I think
yeah,
that's a dangerous thing for Foresight to do. And I actually don't think they should do that. I know as a consumer, I totally get it. That would be
yeah,
amazing and everybody would buy one. But you, it's important to understand that these vendors have brands that they need to protect. And at the end of the day, if you pitch yourself as the gold standard and that's what you want to do, then it's very risky to then start changing that and start to be, oh, well, we can also accommodate the entry level market and
yeah.
then screw the guys that pay all the money for these really decent
Mm.
products, essentially.
There is that
And they
comment.
would
You
have
got
to
to pay
cut
to play.
corners as well, right? You're not
Yeah,
going to have the build quality. You're not going to have like all those things I mentioned earlier about when you pick up a GC3. You can say goodbye to all of that because they would have to make it cheaply to be able to be at that price point. And then you
yeah,
question again, like, what is that? That doesn't fit in their portfolio or doesn't stick to what they do as a company, right?
yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. You got to pay to play. If you want the best, you got to pay for it. I guess is the
Absolutely.
yeah. So Golf Cutter, is it Golf Cutter, has just come in saying the main priority for my wife is she wants to play some courses from her childhood that are across the country. I checked the list. There are zero on GS Pro, so it's my understanding the Garmin R50 is the only option. So not necessarily. It depends what kind of fidelity she wants on the courses. So you do have the Rapsodo. So the MLM2 Pro does also have, I forget the number, it's like 30,000 courses. We can put that in the comment section. I'm sure someone will know the exact answer. So with Garmin, you have 42,000 courses. Rapsodo does the same thing. They do all of their modeling from databases, and the courses are just made through their databases. So they have a massive number of courses as well. The other thing is, if she wants to play those courses at greater fidelity, you can actually get courses built on GS Pro. So you can build any course you want as long as you've got the LiDAR data and a few other things. Now, you can build them yourself. GS Pro would give you the tools to actually build the courses. So you could learn how to do it and you could build the courses yourself. Or you can actually pay one of the amazing designers on GS Pro to build the course for you. So Scott,
Key, key, key
POB16, for
thing,
example.
key thing
Yeah,
there is, you know, is it some when he says some courses from her childhood,
yeah,
how many? If it's two,
yes,
buy a cheaper launch monitor, get a PC, use GS Pro, get them built with high fidelity, and then you're going to have
yes,
an amazing experience instead of
absolutely.
do we buy at the top end just because it's got Home T Hero and it's let's face it, Home T Hero is there just to give more. It's quantity over quality, right? So
Yeah,
every
yeah,
course you play will have the same trees, and
yeah,
that's the difference. So maybe in that scenario, if you've only got two courses, you could probably get them built on a low budget and just go,
Yeah,
it's a quality build in a sense compared to Home to Your Hero, but I
absolutely.
haven't
Yeah.
had to buy a big ticket launch monitor just to access that. So it's a really good question, and courses are something that people always ask about. And when people say, "What courses does this launch monitor come with?" It's just the wrong way to look at it. It's what launch monitor gives you the data and the accuracy that you need. And
Yes.
then the second question is, what does it work with? Because you've got
Yeah.
different software options that add on to that. I think that's a better way of looking at it. And obviously, the way launch monitors are marketed, they do always go on the course direction, say you get this many courses. So it's very important to obviously do your due
Yeah.
diligence and check what that
Yeah.
actually means when they talk about courses.
And I guess I've got a video basically explaining that and talking about, launch monitor buying decisions starts with budget, then it starts with, accuracy and all these other metrics. Go check out that video. I believe you can find it if you just type in Joe Lagowski Golf launch monitor buying guide, I think is what it's called. That's probably a good segue, I guess, to move on to the Garmin. So the Garmin Approach R50, this thing has to me, it kind of came out of nowhere, and they've gone from the radar device to I mean, this thing is huge. It is massive. I mean, it's literally a workout to lift it. It's actually not that heavy, but it is big, and it's big for a reason. It's got a built-in PC to play the Garmin, software, but also you have that massive screen on top. The screen actually looks fantastic. I've got to admit, the screen is nice. It doesn't lag. It's smooth. It's really, really nice to use. But yeah, Garmin R50 thoughts, Sam. How do you see this device?
Well, firstly, I'll send one to you before I test it because I'm not very good at golf. So there's no point in me duffing a few shots and telling you how accurate it is. So of course you have one of these. I haven't used one yet. Look, I trust you obviously more than myself, and I think I understand what the device does. Well, onboard PC is probably the wrong term, to be honest with you. It's not a PC. It's a
Yeah,
built-in, probably an Android tablet that's built into it.
yeah,
And when it was launched, I think it was pretty misleading. I don't think it was intentionally misleading. I think people that don't understand tech thought this thing could run GS Pro in-house,
yes,
like on the device, which is just never going to happen. So that was a bit of a weird one for people to think it does everything. It just definitely won't. Another thing to consider as well is um, the screen is locked to a certain ratio as well. So,
mm,
and this is the thing around marketing that's really, this is what marketing do, and that's their job, right? Is to make things look really cool and simple, and get that product across as best as possible. But
yeah,
when you see someone plug this in directly to a projector and they've got this neat and tidy screen, that's not most people's experience with it. So that's something that, again, you kind of have to do a bit of research, or again give a reseller a call and just talk through it and talk about your space. This impact screen is not the same ratio as this device.
yeah,
most
absolutely.
people's most people's impact screens aren't the same as this device.
Mm,
Now, if you assume you can plug that in and play and it fits everything, then that's just misleading. That's not going to happen. So you kind of need a PC if you want to fill the screen properly, and then you can start using GS Pro anyway. So you've got
yeah,
to kind of consider all these things. And lately, people are talking about the new BenQ range of projectors that we obviously work directly with BenQ, and we are really keen to push all of their products because we just love the quality of them. But this auto screen fit stuff that's happening at the
yeah,
moment, even that only works for a native ratio. So that's not
yeah,
going to solve this problem anyway. So again, lots of misinformation out there. And unfortunately, when you buy these sort of things, big ticket items, and you set them up, it's going to be pretty frustrating if you go that I didn't actually
yeah,
get what I thought I was going to get. So the screen's a big thing to consider. Having said that, all the tech we've got, and me and you and I have both got an Albatross package with 4K, and we've got everything right we could ever want in a sim, essentially. But
yeah,
I love the way that this kind of removes all that. If that's, I know it's weird because obviously I sell sims, but I love the fact that you could have a net, a mat, put the device down, and just hit some balls, and you could essentially play a course, and you can watch the screen, and it just is very simple. I like that, and I think there
yeah,
are a lot of
absolutely.
golfers out there. If you look at the TGL that's come out at the moment, and there's a lot of commentary of people that don't do sim golf going, it's just screen golf. Like, I don't care for that. I'm about real golf. There's loads of those out there, right?
Mm,
So I think this is probably the device for them. Is I don't want all the sim stuff. I just want to hit a few shots, check
yeah,
what's happening, check my distances, practice shaping, and then chuck up a course on there that I can just have a hit around. I think that does solve
Yeah.
that problem. And for us sim enthusiasts, I think maybe we thought this missed the mark in terms of what it can do and the price point, but
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely priced fairly. They need to fix the putting, which I'll let you go into now if that's what you wanted
Yeah.
to cover with this around the performance. But they need to make sure that this device, if it didn't have all of the features and it just provided data to GS Pro, they
Yeah.
need to fix that, because that is what this has to do at that price point. Because
Yeah.
if this didn't have a screen, was half the size, didn't do anything else, it just was like a GC3, for example, but without a screen, but offered more data and it was accurate, it would be a great price. And people would go, that's awesome. Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
that's priced fairly, right? So, yeah, I think the screen works as a bit of a distraction in a way, and I think it confuses the thing that people should care about, which is how good is the data, and if you're using it a full sim scenario, if you're going to spend $8,500 on one of these, the likelihood is you'll probably want a full sim. I don't think
Yeah.
that's a big portion of customers as well, where they want to do both. People that do get the net and this, you know what sim golf is like, you're probably going to start to add on and go, oh, I could do a full sim here. I only need an
Absolutely.
intelligent projector, for example.
Absolutely. I'm just going to jump up to a few of the questions. So we had Harris
Mhm.
is in the chat. Harris, Old Man Golf 2, he is a long time subscriber. He's a long time friend of the channel. He's now a member of the channel. Really, really nice guy, very knowledgeable, and he's just an awesome guy. But he's put in the chat, does the Awesome Golf play on the screen, or does it require another device like an iPad or a PC? So the only software that runs on the device natively is the Garmin software. So the Garmin Ranges, the Garmin Home T Hero, and the weekly Home T Hero tournament. As soon as you go to your connections, your third-party connections, so GS Pro and Awesome Golf are the ones on there at the moment. Awesome Golf requires an iPad or a PC to run. I have hooked the Garmin up to my iPad and I can play Awesome Golf on the iPad. It's really simple. The connection works really well, but you do need another device to run Awesome Golf. And you do need another subscription for Awesome Golf. So the Awesome Golf subscription, I've got one for the Garmin, I've got one for the MLM2 Pro, but it wouldn't let me play on the R50 because I need to get a subscription for that device. Let's go through some of these questions real quick. There's a lot of talk about the Hawk. There's talk about the Falcon.
Yeah, talk about Falcon and Hawk, and I guess there's a bit of commentary around hitting zones there. I found that
Yeah,
quite surprising actually myself. Like, yes, large hitting zone, but that is essentially in 3 zones. So left and right sections of that zone are designed for left and right-handed golfers, and then you have a section in the middle that would be ball data only. So yeah, for a commercial facility, I think that's a bit confusing myself.
yeah, there's yeah,
I suppose you have to learn how to use it, but offsetting the ball on the screen to the left or right is something that I don't like doing. I personally believe that when, as a golfer, when you look at a screen, your instinct is to have that ball down the middle. I just feel like that's like a way that we perceive this screen is to have the ball in the middle of the screen and align ourselves to that and hit the ball down the center of the fairway. When you have to hit that ball from a third this way or a third that way, I personally believe that brings in a few swing thoughts around trying to keep it online. If I hit my ball, if I offset massively to the right of my screen here, and I bring my ball with me so it's in line, I still feel like I'm going to try and drag that to the middle. It's just my opinion on that, but I think it's a strange. I think a strange layout for the hitting zone, but I guess that's the way the technology works. And with the Foresight software, it automatically picks up where the ball hits on the screen anyway. So
yeah, it does. Yeah,
kind of
I
solves
was
that
going to
problem
say
with
that.
their own software. But with GS Pro, I don't know how that would work. I think that would probably be a bit confusing on GS Pro.
Yeah, yeah, it would. Yeah. So I guess, like Sam said, you get your 2 areas for your club data and ball data. In the middle section, that's only ball data. That's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Whereas the Pro T, something like the Pro T, is going to give you club and ball data anywhere in the hitting area, I guess, is the thing that, the point of difference, I guess.
Yeah,
What
and
else? Yeah.
Mike's sorry, just to quickly go on Mike's comment around in the initial promos for the R50, they showed GS Pro on the screen. I'm pretty sure they showed the connector. I don't think
Yes.
they showed the software running on it. I think they showed that there's a GS Pro connector that you can use, but Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, that's correct. Right, Alec is at dinner and he's literally stepped outside for this Square news. So we're gonna have to let's just move because the guys, yeah. So let's move on to the Square news.
Let's get to Square. Let's
Let's
get the
do it.
Square news out of
Okay.
the way, and then everyone can leave the live stream.
Yeah, everyone can leave. Yeah, so we're at. I think we're at 54 people watching right now. Square news, massive update to the Square. I'll let Sam announce it. He
Oh,
can do
okay.
it better. Yeah,
Yeah,
you can do it better than me.
Awesome. Okay, I might actually need to bring it up on my phone because I know the main takeaway that we want to announce
Yeah,
is balls, right? So
yeah,
yes, it needs dotted balls. We want to use a normal ball. Now the next update is going to include the ability to use normal balls. Now when I say normal balls, it's actually a very specific ball, which is the TP5 Pix. So you'll probably be aware that with the Pro TVX, you can use any ball with that, and it's got better now with just a standard ball, but a TP5 Pix is the best ball to use with this because it has loads of reference points for it to measure spin accurately. So Square's latest update that will be available probably by tonight for Aussies. I guess for everybody else in the world, probably have to wait a little bit longer, but this weekend is the announcement. So yeah, a TP5 Pix will work with the Square. Now that's huge, I think, because instead of in Australia, again, we'll use that as an example because I know the numbers, $115 for the premium Saint 9 dozen of balls.
yep,
You can get for 60 Aussie dollars a dozen TP5 picks. So half
yeah,
price balls essentially. Now there is a slight caveat to this because we've been talking with Square directly to figure out, okay, well, what does this mean
yeah,
in terms of accuracy? They're saying that the dotted balls are still something that people are probably going to want to use, particularly in the next few months as they're sort of continuing to improve on spin. They are noticing differences between 2 and 400 RPM in spin comparing a TP5 Pix to one of the dotted balls. So basically, what that means is, yes, it works with the TP5, but the spin rates are still a little bit off. So it depends on you as a player. So if 2 to
yep,
300 to 400 RPM spin is something that's really going to dramatically change how you feel about the data, go with a premium dotted ball. If that's not something that's going to matter too much to you, if it's 2 to 400 out, go with the TP5 picks because they're cheaper and obviously more accessible. And I'd be honest with you, I think they're probably a more premium ball than the premium dotted ones, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Um,
So, yeah, super exciting. The Pix ball, which is, I mean, I switched over to the TaylorMade balls when I got the Pro T, and I've just been using the Pix, and the TP5X for me is fantastic. I love it. So yeah, it's amazing that this has now come to the Square because using this ball is just going to make such a difference.
yeah, and with the TP5 picks, it's great that I'm a 19 handicapper, by the way, Joe, because we've got so different different ends of the spectrum here. So for me, yeah, playing in a sim, I hated these balls. I just they felt like rocks to me. So TP5 picks, I always hated using them with the Pro TVX. I just used I think Callaway Super Soft or something else in this sim because I just hated the feel of them. And I
Yep.
honestly didn't notice the spin differences between a normal ball and the Pro TVX because I'm not that consistent. But what I will say is that get them anyway because the reason they felt horrible to me is because I wasn't hitting them properly. So if as you get better at hitting a ball, especially with your irons, the TP5 picks feels a lot better when you hit it properly. So it's actually a good thing to buy them anyway. And if they don't feel nice or soft off the face, as you work on your game and start to compress the ball and start to hit the ball better, they start to feel better. So it's probably they're kind of like a disguised training aid in that regard. Um, I can go through some of the other updates now if you want,
Yeah,
Joe.
because Alex is talking about the side spin. So are they fixing spin and side spin? So yeah, I'll let you keep going with that.
Yeah, so look, the enhanced spin measurement accuracy is coming as well. So
Yeah.
it improved last time, it'll improve again. If we
Mm.
take Protein as an example, I feel like they do weekly updates, and spin improvements has been in every single update. So it's
Yeah.
something that they continually monitor. So that's a great thing that's coming. I'll stay on that topic for now. So improved accuracy for standard marking balls, which is obviously the TP5 picks, and they've added capability specifically for the picks and select Callaway balls. So I believe some of the Callaway balls have the patterns on them. I don't know
Yeah.
if red ones would work if it's infrared because it sometimes misses those. So they're saying as well there's a Callaway ball that's also going to work with that too. You can also
Is that
select.
possibly the soccer ones, the soccer Callaway balls they're
Yeah,
talking about?
I think so, and they do limited edition ones. So sometimes they're
Okay.
flags or shamrocks
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. The new ball type selection option has been added as well, so you can actually tell it what ball you're using, which is a bit like the MLM2 Pro, right?
Yeah.
So that's the enhanced spin update and also the ball news as well. The other enhancement is the ball ready UI. So
Yeah.
in terms of our engagement with Square customers, we haven't had a lot of issues at all. We've probably had 2 or 3 out of 80, so it's been very low. The only thing we've seen, one battery issue, so draining too quickly, and ball ready, so not being able to get the ball ready. The update fixed that last week for those 2 people, but there's going to be enhanced user face for better clarity and ease of use during ball setup. So they've said here, get rid of the habit of looking down before shooting the ball, and it's going to be easier for you to see whether it's ready. So I'm not sure what that looks like yet in terms of the actual user interface, but that's an improvement they're making, which I think ease of use is something we all want. And if they're improving the way it picks up the ball and lets us know that it's ready, that's great. And the third thing that will be coming in this update as well is the battery fix as well. So there's a battery indicator fix and improved runtime. So anyone that's had battery issues and think the battery is dead, it's not actually the battery, it's not the hardware. It's a firmware issue and a glitch essentially that they've fixed. I think Windows actually had that as well with laptops where they'd die within 15 minutes with a Windows update. So that's quite a common one around battery life. So they've resolved the battery level display errors. So people saying that the battery is low, it's actually not, it's just displaying it wrong. And enhanced battery efficiency for extended use. So maybe that means optimization. Don't know how they got to that point, but essentially that means you're going to get longer out of that battery than you would before. So those are the 3 key updates from Square. I don't know if we've got any more questions here. So we've got one here from Mike, TP5 or TP5X. That doesn't matter. The only difference between those balls is the X in terms of what it looks like. The actual composition of the ball is a bit different, but in terms of what it looks like, it literally has an X next to it. That's why I never know which one I'm hitting in here because there's only the small X on it. So that doesn't matter.
Yes, they're different golf balls. The TP5 is a lot softer and it will spin more than the TP5X, but it doesn't matter because the unit is picking up on the markings and it will calculate the spin based off the markings of the ball. So the balls look the same apart from the tiny little X. So essentially it's the same ball as far as the unit's concerned. It's just going to pick up on those little markings on the ball and then calculate all the spin and spin axis from them. So yeah, it is both of the golf balls. It's the markings on the ball that actually matter, not the ball itself.
I know someone said that the Callaway balls are Truvis, which yeah, I've got a set of those here, which are Truvis ones. And yes, I bought these. You'll see I haven't used these. That's because I stupidly bought red ones and then forgot that it doesn't pick up red because of the infrared. So this is a blank ball essentially. So I'll give these away. Who wants these? I'll send them to anyone. So there was another question as well with spin axis and distance. So you could probably talk a bit more in depth about this, Joe, but improvements in spin should equal improvements in distance.
Yeah, well, it'll just make it more reliable and consistent. So when I was testing the unit and I was seeing those spin rates fluctuate, if you've got spin rates that differ depending on what club you use and the actual spin rate itself, but say if you're hitting a 7-iron, for instance, and you've got one that reads the spin at 5,000 and one that reads the spin at 6,000, you're going to get about 4 to 5 yards more carry with the lower spinning shot. So distance is going to vary depending on the spin on the actual golf ball. If they're 2 identical shots, the same vertical launch, the same ball speed, and different spin rates, then you're going to notice a difference in carry distance. So the better they can get those spin rates dialed, then the more accurate the actual carry distance is going to be in the virtual world.
And Bryce Taylor has said that you're getting more disconnects now than ever. Mine is located 2 foot from the PC, so can't imagine that's the issue. First things first, Bluetooth is a weird one.
Yes.
So is Wi-Fi, so are HDMI cables. Those are the biggest issues we see in Sims. Honestly, if there's an issue with the Bluetooth disconnecting, most of the time it's actually the PC, especially if you're using the built-in motherboard Bluetooth. Buy a high quality branded Bluetooth adapter, put it in a USB 3 slot. They're a lot more reliable. And yeah, if you're getting disconnects, I'd say the first point of failure is actually the Bluetooth connector on the PC's end. If you're still getting issues, then obviously we'll raise that with Square, and they could probably do a bit of diagnostics. But yeah, we just haven't seen that issue. So the only variable there, or the point of failure, like I said, would be the device you're connecting to. Another really quick fix for that, or quick identifier, connect it to your phone app. And then if that stays connected and it doesn't have the issue, you've worked out that the problem is the actual PC.
Yeah, I concur with that. My Bluetooth was like I couldn't connect my MLM2 Pro. I couldn't connect my Square. When it did, it would disconnect. I got the like I've just shown on the camera. I got this TP-Link Bluetooth adapter. It takes a bit of you know, fiddling around with the settings on your computer. Now I have this on a massive extension cable, and I can just put this right next to my unit. And honestly, I've had 0 disconnects since going to this. And
Mike
they're only
makes a
about
really good
12.
point
They're only about $12.
around PCI cards for Bluetooth.
He did tell me about that. Yes.
They're very good because they essentially click into the motherboard and then it provides an aerial. So they're
Yeah.
very good and reliable. The other thing as well, we've had another question here. I'll probably keep answering these, Joe, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Yep. You bang through those. Yeah.
When the swing stick might work with GS Pro, bit difficult for GS Pro because if you're going to join the SGT and you're on a simulator golf tour and there's obviously competitions and stuff, you can't use a swing stick. I mean, I should be off like +1 with a swing stick, so that's not going to happen. They can't have people playing with a device that essentially doesn't make golf accurate. Look, the swing stick's a bit of fun, and I think that's what it should be. But I appreciate that playing GS Pro with it would still be even more fun than playing the app, right? Maybe in an update, GS Pro could make it so that you can't use it on SGT, but I don't know how they'd go about doing that. I know that they're trying to make some changes to certain launch monitors used on the SGT, but I think that's the main reason they won't let it work at the moment. But yeah, that would be a cool feature, just to be able to play local matches with it, but not use it on the SGT.
I'd have to double check, but I think if you use Springbox connector, where it's actually taking a screenshot of the data, I
That's
think it
true.
would
Yeah, you
work.
could do
I
that.
think
Yeah.
it would work in GS Pro. I haven't done it myself, but theoretically it should work because it's just taking a picture of the data. Bryce has said he's got the dongle and still has issues. Have you just check in your computer settings that you have disabled your computer's Bluetooth and enabled your dongle? Because I had to mess around with the settings. I had to update the drivers. I had to disable certain things on the computer before I could then get the other one to work.
I'm just trying to think as well. This question around can you have 2 units connected at once
Oh,
for
I
left and
did see
right-handed
that. Yeah.
players? I think if I put down, I don't know if you can see this, Joe, but if I put down
Yep.
a imaginary square there, if your right-handed golfer is here, I'm assuming that you'd want to stand almost over the square for the left hand, because I mean that's a big difference, right? Or you maybe want them really far apart. I think that brings in logistical problems more than anything. Like, how do you physically do that unless you've got a huge wide screen with loads of room, and then your hitting positions will be way offset as well. So I'd say the logistics would be the main thing there to look at, and how does it work logistically first. But yeah, I suppose it's an option. I think someone was able to use 2 GC3s before. I think I've heard that one. But
Yeah, I've heard 2
yeah,
GC2s back
probably a
in the day.
suggestion we could suggest.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that then you're paying what 2,200 Australian dollars, and you've got left and right-handed capability in your room. So I can see why someone would want that.
Yeah, swing speed from Overswing Golf. Haven't heard anything about that yet, to be honest. Maybe the position of the actual strip on the club, I don't think that is kind of lending itself to swing speed. Be quite cool if they added a separate one towards the club head that gave you speed, but
Yeah.
we'll definitely keep an eye out to see if that's something that they could add in, I guess. Another question here: should I sell the MLM2 Pro for a square unit? Simple answer: if you're indoors, yes. I think actually, to be
Yeah,
honest, I think yes, on the proviso that you're going to be using it for a full sim. So if you've got a PC and GS Pro, yeah, you're going to have a great experience. But going from an LM2 with their inbuilt software to a Square, I mean, might be worth it. But it just as well depends on, do you want chipping and putting? Because as we
it's
know,
honestly, yeah.
is also something that is made by the same company as Square. So yeah, short game and putting. If you've been leaving that out of your game because of the MLM2 Pro, yeah, something that's well worth doing.
And that's it. And it all comes down to what you actually want to get out of the device. Do you want to take it to the range half the time? Do you then want to use it in your sim as well half the time? If you want to take it outside, then yes, the MLM2 Pro is perfect. It is insanely accurate. You can have right and left-handed golfers use it because it's behind you looking down the target line. Or is this just a device for you for simulated golf? Then the Square's probably the device to get because it's so good at putting, it's so good at chipping. They're getting better and better with the updates for the spin and everything. So, I mean, potentially the Square's the answer. It all depends on what you want to use the device for.
Thorstein Moen says GS Pro versus Trackman, ball below your feet. Does GS Pro handle this like Trackman does? Actually, Trackman handles it like GS Pro does, is the right way of saying that, because GS Pro has been doing dynamic penalties for ages. Trackman added it,
Yes.
I think late last year, they added
Yeah.
dynamic penalties. So it's always been in GS Pro, and it's always been hilarious, to be honest, when people say, "Oh, I hit like a 5 wood out of the rough and it went 120 meters," and yeah, that's GS Pro for you. You can't hit a club out of the deep rough, particularly a low lofted club, and expect it to
Yeah.
go the same distance. This has been around for a long time. It improves, but yeah, it's dynamic penalties are something that I think are so crucial for sim golf. Otherwise, people say obviously all the time, this is much easier than outdoor golf, and I couldn't agree more. So you need something to kind of make it as difficult as possible in a way.
Yeah.
This is a perfect lie every time. I will say for chipping, this isn't a perfect lie. It's quite difficult. This is like a hard pan lie outside, essentially. So chipping is actually quite difficult in a sim. That's why everybody should do it. But I think, yeah, in terms of penalties, yeah, absolutely GS Pro handles that very well. In terms of lies, they'll do lie angles. So if the ball is above your feet, it's probably going to come out left, and you obviously need to accommodate for that in your aiming or the way you play the shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Spike's just confirmed it does play the stick on Springboks last he checked. So you can use the swing stick in GS Pro if you use Springbok's connector, which is going to take a screen capture. What's the actual, I forget the actual name of the technology, but it's going to capture a screenshot and then import that data into GS Pro. So it's going to take a few seconds, but apparently Spike is confirming that you can use the swing stick in GS Pro.
All right. Thoughts on Garmin R50 versus the Unicore Orion Mini? Joe
Oh,
has
that,
both.
yeah,
Joe
so
can sum that
yeah.
up, I think, better than anyone. I suppose I'll just touch on my perspective
Yep.
as a reseller. Look, we're not officially licensed to sell Unicore, but it's a brand that we do sell, kind of offline in a sense. Like I've said this a few times before, I'm not really fussed about pushing a particular brand unless I feel that that is genuinely the right fit for that customer. And look, there's loads of different reasons, like we've even been through in here. People want different things, so always going to be a bit different in terms of what that customer should go for in terms of launch monitor. So comparing those two, I guess it's early for the R50. It needs a little bit
Absolutely.
longer. I mean, look how long the iMini's had. The iMini's had
Yep.
ages, and now it's at a point where it's pretty phenomenal in terms of what it can do, the
Yep.
accuracy. In terms of the actual metrics it measures, R50 is going to beat that. But again, at the moment, it doesn't. So it's kind of a patience game, maybe, or if you put your trust in Garmin R50 that they will resolve all of these things. Look at the R10 when it came out; it took a year before it actually was a usable device. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
they've probably learned a lot from that, and they know their golf industry a lot better than they did at that time, I guess. So I think, yeah, I'll let you touch on that a bit more, Joe. But from my perspective, just totally depends on those things that we'll talk about, right? What do you want from your
Yeah.
sim, what your budget is, and what you want to get out of your game.
I 100% agree. And I guess you've kind of touched on it. The iMini for me, everyone's seen my struggles with the iMini on my channel. For about a year, I struggled with that thing with issues. I was talking back and forth with Unicore, helping them with testing. I highlighted countless issues. There were spin axis issues that, I got a lot of heat for finding these issues and people not believing me. But then Unicore finally fixed them. It is now at a point, I used it the other day, it is at a point where it is performing. I mean, it's amazing. It is really performing great. It's giving the GC3. I mean, it honestly, between that and the GC3, I could use either one. Like, they're both performing fantastic. You also get the swing video with the Unicore. You can also get the balance optics, the performance optics package where you can hook up cameras and get AI coaching. It is really kicking goals now, but it did take about a year and a half for this thing to actually start doing that. The Garmin R50's just come out, and straight off the bat, we're trying to hold it in the same regard as the Unicore, which has had a year and a half, 2 years now to find its feet. The thing with the Garmin R50 is you can get this thing, you can set it up in your sim room with a net, and you can start playing Home T Hero. You can play all these courses. The simplicity of setting it up and starting to hit shots it's the easiest device I've used to actually just put down, set up, and just go and just start hitting shots. It's fantastic. You've got the Garmin database, so it's going to hook into all these courses. You could get the device and use it for 6 months, a year, while you're building up the rest of your sim, while you're getting an enclosure, while you getting a projector and all that. It's a fantastic device. The metrics on the Garmin R50 are amazing with full shots. It's already kicking goals there. The chipping's really good. The big thing right now that Garmin need to look at, address, and fix, in my opinion, is the putting. That's pretty much the only thing that it needs to fix. Once they've done that, this thing is going to really, really be kicking goals, especially at the price point it's at. Let's touch on price, Sam, because I've had a few comments saying this device is priced too high for what you get. I completely disagree with that. I think it's competing with a mid-tier launch monitor. You're getting a lot of data. You're getting face angle, face to path. And like I said, the full swing data you're getting from this is absolutely fantastic. Yes, putting is bad. I do believe they can fix that. What are your thoughts on the price and, the Garmin in that regard?
Well, yeah, to compare properly, you need to look at the data it measures. And if we look at it just from that standpoint, it's closer to a quad, really. I mean, it has to be, because it does face angle, it does, angle of attack, it does it. If you go and this is the good thing about the metrics, I guess, you can actually just look at them in a table and compare them. But it's a bit of I guess it's a bit of a tricky one as well, because you can look at a Mevo Plus with the Pro package and it offers 21 data points, but indoors, I wouldn't trust that thing at all, to be quite frank. So it's kind of quality over quantity for data, yes. But I think we're at a point now with photometric launch monitors, particularly the Garmin, in terms of what hardware's in it, that I think that data is going to be pretty good. I think it's going to be, from your testing initially, Joe, it seems very accurate on full shots. It sounds like even the club data is great out the box. So really, what should we be comparing it to? I personally think a quad. And that seems silly because it's 8,500 instead of 40,000, but it's probably the closest thing to it. I mean, you can have an iMini or a GC3 that have those particular metrics that don't do face angle. That's the big one, I think. Face angle, people want to know that, right?
Face angle's the big one, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the big data point that I always talk about when people go, "Oh, do I get the Pro T or do I get an iMini or SkyTrack Plus?" I know SkyTrack Plus does do face angle, but I guess the way it measures it is a bit different to those others. Does it measure? Does it calculate? Up for discussion. But I'd say that the R50 absolutely is, something that should be compared to much higher end launch monitors. So the 8,500 compared to 5,000 for a SkyTrack Plus, absolutely, it's priced correctly in my opinion.
Yeah, so the SkyTrack Plus does estimate that data, but I've got to be completely honest, is the estimated data from that thing, I believed it. It was, and like I said in my reviews, the SkyTrack Plus for full shots, the data was amazing, but you're getting limitations with
it's
the
a
laser
great
dot.
device for
Yeah.
what it does in terms of the data. I've never disputed it's great, but from my perspective, if you're going to spend $5,000 on a launch monitor, Should you wait 2 seconds for the shot to come out? No. Should you have to hit it off of a laser dot? No. Should it integrate with GS Pro? I think so. But obviously, they have their own ecosystem that they want people
Yeah.
to, take part in or be a part of, I guess. And we obviously are a Skytrack reseller, and the original Skytrack, you couldn't beat it for what it did for the price
Oh
point.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
the problem is the tech moves so quick, and I think in the last 2 years, unfortunately, the Skytrack Plus, I think, has already got too much competition that really, even if we look at Square, I'm not saying that it can give the same data, but in terms of a golf experience, if you connect, I mean, and let's talk about price. With a Square for $1,000 Aussie compared to 5,000 for a Skytrack Plus, you could buy a 4K, you could buy a HD PC and a projector, still less than the price of a Skytrack Plus, and if you have GS Pro, you'll have undeniably a better golf experience in terms of golf sim. You're going to have a much better experience because we all know that GS Pro is, the best out there, and there's no shot delay. There's a bigger hitting area. The connectivity is not official with GS Pro. So when you weigh everything up, I think again it depends on what you want from your sim. But really, in that circumstance, I'd say yeah, it's crazy how far the tech's come, and I think Skytrack can't wait another 10 years like they did with the Skytrack original. Like if they want
Yeah.
to compete, there needs to be a new product by, to be honest, this year. But that's not going to happen.
I completely agree. I'll touch on so to me, the Garmin R50, I look at it as a GC3 / Unicore iMini kind of competitor in that space, as opposed to something a bit higher end. So I look at it as you're getting the same data you're going to get with a GC3 or an iMini, and you're getting a little bit more. So you're getting that face angle and face to path, which is fantastic, and you're getting angle of attack. So when we talk about like other devices like the Pro T, that's when you're going to start to get dynamic lie and all these other metrics that are just probably way more than a lot of people need at home. I'm going to say most people don't need all of that stuff. So, but yeah, look, someone's just reminded me. So Pro T VX, we've got it. Let's move on from the Garmin. Do you have anything else to say about it, Sam?
No, that's all good. We've got 3 questions there, so let's crack on with those.
Yeah, nice. So we've got. Okay, I'll quickly just answer Torstein. So the biggest issue with the putting of the R50, speed or HLA or both. So definitely HLA, 100%. I'll have my putting video come out probably tomorrow, so definitely check that out, the official test. Speed, there's something off about the speed on slow putts, and sometimes I'll hit a putt, and this is noticeable in GS Pro. I'll hit a putt, and the thing will just come off way too quick, and there's something not right about the speeds on slow ball speed putts. I'll leave it at that. I'll have to test more in depth to actually come up with the conclusion, but it's definitely HLA is off, and speeds, there is something there. I've got some spidey senses tingling that the speed of the putts are coming off too hot on those short putts. Okay, Pro T VX. So yes, this is answering a question there. So the Pro T VX, it gets a lot of shot input lag with the last update. A few of my videos, you can see the input lag, and yes, it is a lot slower, 100%. I have noticed this, Sam has noticed this, a lot of the users have noticed this. There is a reason for it. So I'm currently on the beta update for the Pro T, so for Labs, their software. And in that beta, we now have the ability to hook up cameras to get slow motion replays of our swing. And also they've implemented a new AI for the actual club data. So for me, the club data has improved dramatically. And you can see that in my videos. Now, the issue is the Labs is still in beta. So being a beta, it's not refined and it's not a stable release yet. And during this beta, they haven't got all of that stuff refined enough yet. So when you hit a shot, it's doing the processing in the background before it sends all the data through to GS Pro. So yes, there is a delay, but it's because it's currently in the beta. So Sam can probably elaborate on that a bit more.
Yeah, I don't think I really need to. It's a beta for a reason, and I've used the beta for the swing cams. Absolutely amazing. It's such a good feature, not just because of being able to have the swing cams, but the simplicity of it is, if everybody said how they wanted it to work, this is exactly how it would be. You open a new window, which obviously you can move each window around in your summary in Pro T Labs. You connect a USB camera, absolutely any camera works. plug it in, up it appears, and then you can control a few things like
Yeah.
how slow it replays the swing, how long that is, all of those kind of things that you'd want to do, and then you can control and change that window around. I think the big thing here is again the simplicity, but the problem with it, I guess, is that look, it's a bit intensive on the PC. So the main thing that Proti are working on, and they've told us this, is the optimization to make sure that it's not going to be more power hungry on the PC and cause lag. I would say that if you're going to have swing cams in labs, I don't think it's ever going to be that usable with GS Pro. I know that when you look at the Unicore stuff, like having loads of things running at the same time can increase your chances of getting a bit of lag, particularly if you're running like a really high-end ultra 4K course that's got loads of detail. You're probably going to start to see a bit of lag. So it's good for working on your game. You can save tabs. So once you've got the perfect layout for your labs, you can save that, and then you can actually tick an option in the settings so that you can say to Proti, don't use swing cams when GS Pro is running, because they obviously sync up. As soon as I run GS Pro, it shuts down the cameras so that we can play fluidly. So once they optimize that a bit more, we may see that be able to work alongside GS Pro. But for now, and I think when the stable comes out, it would be a case of not running those at the same time. But in terms of the way they work, yeah, it's amazing. And the other thing as well is because Labs knows when you've hit the shot, it obviously knows when to replay the swing. So it's nice and seamless. And yeah, it's a great feature.
I guess just to touch on that as well, and I don't know how much I can say, but we've both spoken to Proti. We've spoken to them about this. They do have a really, really good idea that they're going to implement that will stop this from happening in the future. So they know about it, they're onto it, and they're gonna, yeah, they're very smart people, and they've got a way around this in the future. So
Yeah, and look, I can say that having spoke to Proti around obviously the PGA show and stuff, that they do have a software focus this year. So what we hate to see is companies focusing on hardware, product. It doesn't really help them to have a narrowed focus and deliver a really quality product that keeps improving. So that's good to hear, and it's great to see that when the Pro TVX came out, they just abolished the other ones in the portfolio and said, "Why are we bothering? This thing does everything. What's
yeah,
the next one up from this?" Right? I think that it's as premium as it can get, particularly with the amount of time they've spent on the software and refining it as they go.
yeah, and no subscriptions as well.
That's correct. Alan Harker said the optical launch monitors are easy to set up, but what competes with the Mevo on data? So
Yeah,
first things first, it's not about ease of setup, it's about the way it measures all that data. So if I have a device that's sat next to the ball or on the ceiling looking down at it, that's going to be infinitely better than anything sat looking down the line, particularly for short game. If I hit a little bump and run, there's no way that a radar based unit is actually picking up that data effectively. The club head's almost in the way for a start. Putting non existent, right? So yes, you can get 21 data points, but how are they going to be a accurate indoors, right? Mevo Plus is designed to read ball flight. If you're going to hit 3 meters, 9 feet away from the screen and hit short shots, it's just not going to be giving you the data you need. And I think, you know, look at all of those data points and think what ones are important to you. And then if you're working on your game and those all of a sudden just don't mean anything, or they don't seem to be as consistent as your swing, then what's the point? You're kind of chasing something that just doesn't really give you the outcome you want. And also, yes, you get all the data points, but then my first question is, are you just going to be on the driving range? Because if that's true, then maybe it is the right launch monitor for you. But if you
yeah,
actually want to play
that's it.
sim golf, it's not really the right fit, in my opinion. I think you should go with a photometric. You're probably going to be indoors. There's going to be interference, all of those kind of things.
Yeah, radar is a fantastic technology, and it's really, really good at some applications, but it has a lot of limitations. And I think even the people who really made radar popular with golf and brought it to golf as TrackMan. TrackMan are fantastic. However, even indoors, a TrackMan 4 has a lot of limitations. It's just the nature of the technology where you look at photometric based systems where they're positioned, like Sam said, they don't have those limitations, and cameras are so good now and can capture such high frame rates that a lot of the advantages that radar has, they're kind of pointless in a way, because the cameras can take such high frame rates and so many pictures that I mean, yeah. Outdoors though, absolutely. I think the
And look,
FlightScope Mevo
Alan,
Plus is fantastic as
Alan
long as you're
mentioned
using a
that he can
premium
hit
ball.
3-yard chips. So yes, Alan, I see this all the time. So what we get a lot in sim golf is people say, my setup's fine, mine works, mine does it, it's your problem, which is fine because that happens. But what you have to consider is that if you go onto a Mevo Plus owners forum on Facebook and look through the common problems, they're all the same. So everyone's setup is different. Joe highlights this in his channel all the time, which I think is really important, is people are going to get different experiences depending on their setups. That
Yeah,
is infinitely true for radar. Like there's so many variables, and there's interference can come from all sorts of things. In Australia, we have color bond everywhere. That's a big no-no in my opinion. Is color bond that can have huge influences over misreads and stuff. Air conditioning units, projectors. People have Faraday cages, so
yeah,
yes, you can get it to work, but then if we go and sell 20 of those and 19 people have the same issue, then yeah, I get it that you can hit 3-yard chips. That's great. But the vast majority don't have that experience. So it's really important to be clear that this is a common problem we see. So we do this with every launch monitor. And look, if someone buys an MLM2 Pro from us and they go, I can't wait to play loads of golf, we go, well, hang on a minute. Are you looking to play full rounds of golf? And if they go, yeah, I want to play courses, I want to connect to GS Pro, yeah, the putting is not going to be great unless you want to set up a webcam. And they've introduced short game to the MLM2 Pro, which is actually quite good. But again, the vast majority of people aren't having that experience that's that fluid, and not as something like a Square can do, right? So it's really important to understand that there's those differences.
nice. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. There's so many limitations, and interference is a real thing with radar. Even this channel started because of the Garmin R10, and I made a Faraday cage for my projector and stopped the interference. And even, Doppler is a real thing as well. So how quickly you swing the club back is going to determine when that unit actually registers that you're swinging the club to then, turn on to look for the ball. So it's a massive radar. It's a fantastic technology, but there are a lot of limitations. So
Torstein asked if Garmin gets the putting problem solved. Do we see the R50 as a big competitor to TrackMan with regards to sim centers? No. Depends what you mean by sim center. So someone coming in to play golf and practice, no. The thing sits on the floor, it's massive. Not really a good option, to be honest. There's other options that I think are far better. Why wouldn't you buy a Pro Tee? Put it on the ceiling.
absolutely,
It's overhead, has a huge hitting
yeah,
area. No one's going to touch the device. It's just not suitable for that, to be quite honest.
yeah,
I don't see, in terms of who competes for commercial sim centers. Look, Unicore are the number one outside of
yeah,
Foresight, of
yeah,
course. You've got Unicore that challenge and really do well in commercial. Look, we've done a lot of commercials and we've got some big commercial things happening at the moment with the Pro Tee. I personally believe this is a commercially viable product, particularly with GS Pro. When we do live demos here, and my colleague who does demos as well, the vast majority of them that have been to sim centers, the first thing they say is, how is this better? How does this $20,000 setup perform and look and feel better than my experience when going to a sim center? And I will say that most of those are TrackMan. TrackMan have made some updates to the new software, which looks amazing. It looks better than GS Pro in a lot of those courses. Can't deny that. If there's a TM4 in that center, again, short game and putting is almost non-existent. The amount of time I
yeah,
hear guys really, really annoyed because the putting's just all over the place. And the software, in terms of ball physics, I don't think is as good as well. I've played countless games on TrackMan as well. I personally think GS Pro is a better product. So when people see these commercial builds and go, "Oh, there's 100K for a sim build, a custom sim
mm,
build," if I spend 21K for a home one, it's going to be a fifth as good. That's not necessarily true. So the tech moves very quickly. So yeah, I would say that to answer the question, R50 in commercial, not really. If you're going to be doing club fitting, I think you should buy a quad so that you actually have those metrics
yeah.
those additional metrics that are required.
Dynamic lie and loft
And
and
then
things
if
like
you
that.
just are running a sim center for people to play golf and practice, go with an overhead.
Hmm. And so there is a massive commercial facility opening around the corner from you, Urban Fairways. They're going to have 12 bays, and they have chosen to go with the Pro Tier. Is that right, Sam?
Yeah, I don't know how much we can say, but I think the tide's turning a little bit. So we're not a commercial reseller. We don't do commercial, but what I mean by that is we don't come to site, scope it out, quote it,
Mm,
and provide that end-to-end sim build service. That's not what we are. We're a product reseller, really. When we boil things down, we're an e-commerce business. We sell online. We don't have a big facility that people come to, and we keep our costs low because that's what we do. Um, I personally believe that because the tech has come so far in the last 2 to 5 years, I believe that as a commercial facility, you're going to be able to make your money back a lot quicker, leveraging products like the Pro TVX and using things like GS Pro. And with the cost of services in Australia, building a sim center is staggeringly expensive. So depends what you want to do. If you want to build a sim center just because you want to and you don't care about money, then great. Build a custom one and spend millions of dollars. Why not? But if you're really looking to build a business that's going to be profitable within a certain amount of time, why would you spend 100 grand per bay? If you look at the hourly rate that you hire that out at, how do you make your money back? Yes, you need to add things onto that, like food, drink, parties, things like that. But then it becomes a bit of that type of sim. It doesn't become that dedicated, serious golfer kind of thing. So you've got to be careful and strike that balance. But
yeah.
really, this Pro T, I believe, the data's there, the usability's there, and the cost, the cost advantages are there. Integration with GS Pro, I think these days, that as a commercial product, Pro T with GS Pro, I don't think many consumers are going to use that and go, I'm going to use something else. I don't like it.
So Alan, so we've got a couple of minutes left. We'll wrap this up soon. We'll just finish answering these questions. So Alan says, agree with the points. Was looking for an optical that doesn't break the bank and provides all the same data as Mevo Plus. Seems you guys are leaning towards the Pro TVX. Any other suggestions? So that Mevo
So the
Plus,
first question
yeah,
there, Alan, is why did you buy Mevo in the first place? Because if it's for left and right-handed capability, that's normally the main reason, or someone has just saw the Mevo Plus, the metrics, and gone, "This works great for me."
mm,
Um, inside, like I said, we don't like radar, just the way it is. When it comes to budget, if you can afford the Pro TVX, that's something I would say absolutely go with. And then if it is for left and right handers, of course, this is perfect. There's nothing on the floor here.
yeah,
Left and right handed players can hit from the same spot. Huge, generous hitting area to give you all the data. And again, no subscription fees like the Mevo Plus obviously works with GS Pro as well. So does
yeah,
Pro T. So if you like using that, you can maintain your same license, convert it to Pro T, and away you go. So I would say the Pro TVX if your budget allows. If not, probably get something that's photometric and you're going to have to move it every time someone else wants to play.
yeah, yep. So Mike says, I went to Golf Zone in Malaysia. It was very average compared to GS Pro. And
Yeah, people love
yeah,
Golf's on, and I can see why, because as a obviously turnkey is the big word for Golf's on, because it
yeah,
is just end to end. It's not like most sims where you buy a few pieces and put it all together. It's definitely a turnkey solution. Very arcadey, I think. That's the main sort of thing I think when I look at the software. It's like playing an arcade game. And I think in those Asian markets, that's why it's so successful. People love
yeah,
that. I think in other markets, people want that true kind of golf simulation. So not a game. It's we're trying to replicate golf as best and as accurately as we can. And I think GS Pro definitely outdoes Golf's on software in that way. Of course, the dynamic at real lies of moving the floor, trouble mats, all of that stuff is really cool. But really, I think I don't know if it's a bit gimmicky. I think it's never going to be the same as outside. So yes, you've got it closer to feeling like outside, but I still don't think it's the same. Hitting out of those bunker brushes that are supposed to replicate sand, they don't feel like sand. They really
mm,
don't. When you hit it with a club, it doesn't feel like sand. Hitting out of the rough isn't the same because we have dirt and different
yeah,
things to consider outside. And in terms of pivoting the hitting station or whatever you want to call it, that's probably great. I think that's really good because you're going to be able to practice. They happen all the time on course, but very rarely is it a perfect slope. It's kind of all over the place. So I don't know how much that would improve your game outside practicing those lies. But again, budget is always a thing we'd consider there. I don't think that budget justifies all of that kind of tech and all of those
yeah,
different things, right?
yeah, I concur. And talk about the Asian market as well. You look at the Unicore software. We've had a question about game day, and again, I've tested game day. I've tried game day. I can't speak much on the specifics, and I can't show it off. But I will say my feedback to them was, if they want to make this something that people want to use at home, they need to make it less arcadey, and also it needs to be a lot easier for the person to interact with. It's very much a commercial feel to me, and that was my feedback for them. All right, we got to wrap this up. So we'll answer up to Steve's question, and then we will sign off. So Torstein says, "Thanks for the great session. One more question: what's the stimp of your mat?" So the actual stimp of my mat, I do have putting turf, and the whole thing stimps at about 10 on the stimp meter. I do have a stimp meter. You can buy one off Amazon for cheap. And then we've got Alan says, more specific question and a quick one. This is not a quick one. Who does gear effect other than Quad Family? So gear effect is going to be measured by any photometric based launch monitor, and gear effect is essentially what's going to put a certain, when you hit the golf ball off center, assuming everything's neutral, if you hit the ball off the toe, it's going to make the face deflect open, so the ball's going to start right, and then due to the gear effect, the ball is going to have a left spin axis, so it's going to draw. Now, gear effect, it happens because of the club, but the actual golf ball is being measured by the photometric based unit. So gear effect is going to be read by photometric based launch monitors. So it's not just quad. The iMini, the GC3, even the Square is reading that gear effect because it's reading the actual golf ball.
Good answer, Joe.
And then finally, we've got Steve was the last question, wasn't he? Where's Steve's question? I've got to go
I've
back up
answered
now.
Jay Stills anyway. Are you worried? Other marketing on balls will be picked up now?
Are you worried? Other marking on balls will be picked up now. I'm not sure what that's referring to. Is that referring to the Square potentially?
Yeah, I think maybe asking, will it pick up other balls? Maybe I'm not.
I
really
guess
sure.
what we didn't touch on with the Square was yes, you're going to have the TP5 or the Pix ball, sorry, as an option to select. You're still going to be able to use a regular golf ball with the club stickers on and get estimated spin and spin axis. So you're still going to be able to do that, but you're going to have an option to select the Pix balls or the select Callaway balls. I guess that's that potentially is what he was referring to. All right, I guess
I answered Jay Steele's question around 4K and HD. Everyone's a bit different on this. People kind of go, I can see a difference, and other people say I can't. It's very, I don't know. I think maybe it's just a personal opinion, but for me, testing all the projectors we've had in here, I absolutely think 4K is so different to HD, and I guess that depends. The variables there will be which projectors we're comparing, right? But for me, in that kind of entry level into 4K projectors, there is a massive difference. So between, let's take BenQ and Optoma as the prime examples. If you take their kind of golf sim short throw HD projector and then go to their next 4K one, comparing both of those, I think you will see a massive difference, particularly if you have, and this is the big caveat, decent impact screen. If you've got a decent impact screen, I can see a lot more detail with 4K. I can see the flag waving from 150 meters out. The edges are a lot more crisp, and I can see a lot more detail, particularly on those more detailed courses on GS Pro. So for me personally, massive difference. So yeah, I guess everyone's different, but if you can go to 4K, I don't see why you wouldn't.
Yeah. Okay, that is a little bit over an hour, so we're going to leave it there for this week. But that was this week's episode 2 of Sim World. So thank you everybody for coming in, answering questions. It's been good. I think this for me is a really good format. And yeah, let us know in the comments section if you like this format, if you want to see more of this format. Massive thank you to Sam as well for joining me today. I do think I would like to make this more of a permanent thing. Maybe, if we can. If not, maybe some weeks I'll be doing it, hosting it by myself, but I would like to get Sam on the show more often.
Yeah, I would say that I could probably commit to doing this a lot more often. I don't think weekly, but I think you know, depending on updates as well, right? I don't think we're going to get drastic updates every week, but look, as things go, we'll play it by ear, and when I can attend, I certainly will, because I think it's really good to do these things. The forums are great, but a live chat's brilliant because you know, asking things in person and then being able to counter and stuff is really nice, and obviously just great to obviously have everyone in the same place to discuss, and obviously see you on your channel, and I think the partnership we've got is great to be able to. We both have the same focus, which is really what's the new thing in sim and with the tech. And when the PGA show happens in the next couple of weeks, it's going to be another year, I think, of just more and more tech. So this is a
Yeah,
really good format, and I think this will be a really good thing to build on, and I think it will just keep growing and growing. So thanks for having
fantastic.
me on, and thanks everyone for joining.
Nice. Going forward, I will, if you're not a member of the Facebook group, definitely join the Facebook group, because I will be putting in there. I had questions in there. I think Torstein logged on and asked this question anyway. But on the Facebook group, I will be putting up next week's episode. And then also I'll be putting in, if anyone's got any questions, ask your questions in there. So hopefully we hit on everything today. That was a jam-packed episode. And yeah, that's it for today. So thanks everyone for joining. And yeah, we will call it there. We will see you next week for SimWorld.
Thanks, guys. See ya.